Chahirle, Tásarm Deshail, Lord Fikest, Curim Priul. As I know, I should equivalent more to Tivstia go Chorus Lante. A government interrogate in a hospital, no government interrogate, it's a bubble. I have to say that in all my time in politics, there's been a great tension between expenditure in the hospitals and expenditure on the ground in preventative and primary care medicine. And it always seemed to me that the hospitals won out. It's more high profile, it's much more likely to attract public attention in the main national media. Whereas primary care and preventive care is less spectacular, but in fact, if you analyse it, it gives you much better results. And I remember suggesting at one stage, in fact, that we really need two departments of health, because the one minister is always conflicted between putting the money into the hospitals for very, very exciting new medicine and putting the money into the much more mundane that might give you a lot better results for a lot more people. And this tension is definitely there, and my feeling was maybe if you had two ministers, one with responsibility for, say, children and primary care, and the other for hospital care, that at least at the cabinet table there would be a balance in the debate between the two. Now, reality is that if we look at a lot of the illnesses that are causing so many challenges to us as a society, for example, diabetes, even, for example, screening in terms of regular testing for things such as cancers and so on, we see how much prevention is actually better than cure. And I think it's very noteworthy that we're having this debate today on the whole issue of primary care. And my view is that a lot more of the resources should be focused in that direction. What I'm also convinced about is that a lot of treatments now being provided in hospitals, if you had properly funded and also suitably located primary care teams, that they could actually be brought out into the community. And unfortunately, no matter how often we talk about this, and this was talked back to the time that we were in government, that this was the way of the future, it never seems to happen. Now, I believe in centres of excellence for very high-powered medicine. That makes absolute sense. You have to critical mass when you're treating, for example, cancers and so on. That's in terms of diagnosis and operations, but it's not true in terms of the subsequent treatments. And we need to have an absolute positive policy that everything that could be more appropriately done at the local area will be done at the local area. I think we also have to understand that for a lot of people, right throughout their life, the mundane issues of medicine are hugely important. And in the short time I have, I'd like to address a number of issues. As I said in the debate on rural development earlier tonight here, there is a huge force towards centralisation in this country at the moment. It seems that when pressure comes on systems, the first places to lose out are the periphery. It also seems to me that when the pressure comes on, we don't do the simple things well. I'll give a number of examples. There's an issue in relation to a lack of physiotherapy resources in the west of Ireland. And instead of spreading the physiotherapy resources equally across the regions, instead of making sure that whatever reduction in services took place while they have the money, there just seems to be some delay in hiring physiotherapists, that the pain would be borne evenly between urban and rural communities. A decision was made by the HSE to withdraw the physiotherapy services from Connemara and to tell people to travel 100 or 120 or 130 kilometres to Galway City for a physiotherapy session. Now, when you're talking about the people who need physiotherapy and they're travelling on bad roads, it's an absolute nonsense to be bringing older people who need these services that type of distances. You know the old saying about bringing the person to the mountain or the mountain to the person? Well, it seems to me in this case that we're bringing all the people to the city instead of bringing the services to the people. And this is a huge reversal of all the promises we got in relation to primary care. I had somebody in recently, Minister, and I think you'd be particularly interested in this, in relation to the CAM service, the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. They were living 7 miles west or beyond Clifton in County Galway. Now, Clifton in County Galway is about 100 kilometres from Galway City. The suggestion was that once a month we would have a CAM service in Clifton. I put on a parliamentary question. It was referred as usual to the HSE, and they came back and said, sorry, that's our policy, you come to Galway. Do you think that's humane to a family that's under stress, who's got a young person who has mental health issues, that they have to literally spend half a day travelling to avail of that service? Is this what we call progress? That we centralise everything right into the centre and we'll put huge impositions on people on the edge? And we wonder at times why the A&E services are absolutely jam-packed. We wonder why our ambulances are held up in the acute hospitals, waiting to disgorge patients. Well, they might be into the hospital, but they cannot be handed over to the staff, because we're actually, because of the lack of the local service, because of the lack of the primary care, we're forcing people into the acute hospitals that could actually have been treated in proper primary care services. In the 3 minutes that are left, Minister, can I also, and it mightn't be the exact subject of the motion, but I'm sure you'll forgive me, because it's your specific area of competence. I have to say that a matter of great concern to me over recent years has been the dearth of funding for disabilities. Now, I am criticising you and your government, but I'm not trying to do that in a personal way. I'm doing it because I have endless numbers of parents coming looking for respite care, some looking for full-time residential care. Yes, but it's still not meeting demand. What I'm saying is, when I get the figures from the HSE Minister, yes, they'll tell me there's an extra 100,000 provided here and 160,000 provided there, but the people who provide these services to people with an intellectual disability are telling me that they don't have adequate resources to provide the services that they require. Now, I understand the challenge. Again, it's not the high-profile part of medicine. I have to say there was much more talk about disability in the 90s and in the noughties than there is now. But the reality is, and I do understand that as a consequence of that, you might be fighting an uphill battle. But the reality is that the families of the people with the intellectual abilities are living with this every day of every year, and if they have young people, they're expecting a lifetime of this. As I often say, most people who wind up caring for the elderly, it's quite a finite period. People who wind up looking after people with a disability, you're talking about a long lifetime. Thanks be to God, because people's survival rates are much better nowadays. And can I finally ask you, Minister, and I've been trying to put down questions to the Minister of Social Protection on this, and that is the whole means testing of disability allowance for those who never will, never have had the chance of getting a job. If they gave or leave to their own children, out of what they've saved through a lifetime, €100,000, they disregard the first 50,000. If they leave them a house, it means that they're effectively ruling their young people out of support from the state. That issue also needs addressing. So, Minister, in summary, we need a much better proportion of the budget to primary care. We must make sure that the regions and the areas on the edge of the country get the same service as those in the centre. And thirdly, we need to put much more money into disability than we have been doing in recent years. Good morning.